Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and we haven't checked in with Andy Schectman lately. I wanted you to watch this.
If the biggest, most sophisticated money in the world could care less about the price of gold and silver and continues to accumulate it and remove counterparty risk by taking it back, repatriating it from what were traditionally the stores or the places to keep it, because it was the exchange. So keep it at the New York Fed where it's safe and you can trade on the NYMEX or the COMEX. Keep it at the Bank of England and trade on the LBMA. They said, no, well, thank you very much. We'll take possession of it ourselves. And so repatriation and massive accumulation by the largest, most sophisticated, well-funded, and well-informed money in the world is all you need to know. We are all being misdirected. Misdirection is a very popular theme.
Think Bitcoin ETF.
Finance and business. In anything where there's an opponent or a competition, the idea is to misdirect. I don't care if it's sports or chess or business or finance or law, you misdirect your opponent. And that's exactly what is happening here. The rest of the world is trying to de-dollarize and accumulate hard assets using the Western paper leverage to misdirect.
Don't forget, that's what I will be doing when this thing all goes off. A lot of the money I make will be going into hard assets, paid for real estate, physical gold.
And to quietly enter that space without paying an arm and a leg, because if everyone knew what the playbook was, everyone would run, they'd be crowded out of the trade, the price would go up, everything would disappear. But instead, if you can create a perception of reality with leverage and misdirect, like the book, The Art of War, the no-look path.
The no-look path, The Art of War. Get everybody to focus on Bitcoin and Ethereum.
In basketball. That's what they're doing.
I had to write down The Art of War. Now, today, I get these emails from Miles Franklin. Andy Schectman, this is his company. Miles Franklin is one of my sponsors. They send me an email that lets me know where they're having the deals for the week. This week, one of the deals, and a lot of people I talk to, they think there's a better deal in silver right now than there even is in gold. So I have some of both. But they're doing these 1 ounce silver Austrian Philharmonic 2023. That's their one of their specials this week. So you know the drill. If you want to get some precious metals, go to either email info@milesfranklin.com or call 952-929-7006. Code DAI Gold. You know the drill. Now, this clip was going around this morning, and I couldn't remember if I had played it before. Doesn't matter. This is worth you hearing 4 or 5 times. This is David Schwartz.
Do you believe that there can be two existing world reserve currencies to simultaneously exist?
I do, and I think that could happen. I think
before we listen, I want to show you something. Jack the Ripper put that is Ripple's goal. Actually, it's Ripple's simple goal. I'm drawing a blank on his name now. Miguel Valles. Miguel Valles in a Ripple article, he said that it was a simple goal of creating a global digital asset, global reserve digital asset is what the simple goal was.
Quite realistic that a lot of the world is just done with the dollar as their reserve currency. I think that there's a lot of places that are willing to try something else. And one of my scenarios, and I don't think it's going to play out quickly, but like one of my wild case success scenarios for a digital asset is if countries start to realize that The U.S. dollar is not going to be the reserve currency forever. Other things are going to be the reserve currency. And the same thing that we saw with banks. Like people,
when you see wild case scenario as a thumbnail on this video, I got it from him.
When we started selling software to banks, people would say to me, why would a bank use something that, like you guys were selling them, when they could use something that was like made by banks? And what they didn't realize is that, only like 10 banks in the country, on the planet, are Deutsche Bank, HSBC, Credit Suisse, JP Morgan Chase, like the ones who would build a system that the entire planet would run on. For the rest of the banks, that's 6,000 smaller banks, those are their biggest, strongest competitors. Those are the entities they hate the most. They would not want to use the system built and maintained by them because it's going to be biased in favor of them, their biggest and strongest competitors. And I think the same thing could happen to nations. Like every nation would love for their currency to be the world reserve currency. That's helped the U.S., that's grown the U.S. economy, quote unquote, unfairly by leaps and bounds for decades. And every other country would be like, yeah, we'd like to have the world be the world's reserve currency. But the only countries that could possibly pull it off is the U.S. holding its position, maybe the EU, maybe Russia, maybe one or two others. But realistically, most countries know that if there's going to be a new world reserve currency that's a country's currency, it's not going to be them. And so they might actually prefer a currency that nobody can control to one that's controlled by their largest geopolitical rivals. And so that's like what I think is the biggest possible success scenario for digital assets. If these countries are like, okay, well, the U.S. dollar can't hold on forever, but it's not going to be our currency because no one's going to want to repeat the U.S. dollar scenario. Nobody but the EU wants the EU to replace the dollar, right? Nobody but Russia wants the ruble to replace the dollar. Nobody but China wants the yuan to replace the dollar. So maybe they could settle on a currency that nobody could control rather than one controlled by their most powerful geopolitical rival. So if you want a success scenario, that's the one that I think is the most likely.
But the money question is, how do you get everybody to agree?
Well, I mean, they might agree if the alternative is that their geopolitical rivals force some new replacement for the dollar that's not, if they just replace, the old boss with a new boss. If the choice is no boss, if that happens to make a bunch of cryptocurrency people rich, I don't think they're going to see that as too much of a minus.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I think I did play that clip a long time ago, but that's worth hearing several times, folks. Reminds me of what Brad Kahns told me from Singapore. He said that when he walked out of that room, he said he literally had that conversation with David Schwartz. And David Schwartz said, who else is it going to be? China? Like, nobody would trust China to be the world reserve currency. And I think it all has to do with this right here. I think that this conversation was everything.
You want to take one?
Go the for IMF. It. This was
the first one's for
This was the IMF's general counsel at the time.
IMF. Do you see IMF holding crypto assets in the future? I did not put that up there.
Remember, I'm from the legal department. I'm supposed to be very conservative about these things. I don't want to go into great details about
Maybe
the
I should take what the IMF is going to do.
So anyway, what the IMF guy said there was that a country would have to use that digital asset as its currency, I believe is what he said, in order for that to be done. Now, moving along, this is an interesting tweet. Somebody pulled this out of nowhere the other day. I'm not going to go through too much of it, but I wanted to show you this part. This guy said, if you read this guy's thread, the guy seems pretty smart. Then he goes, side note, Joel Katz created Bitcoin as the prototype when he was at the... I can't talk about that right here. You can read that. I'm not going to talk about this outside of the group. We don't talk about... Sometimes you can get in the habit, but then down here it says, where does he say it? Here it is. First gen Bitcoin in this chart is in the prototyping stage because its statistics seen on the chart. It says somewhere in here that it says Bitcoin and Ethereum are prototypes and complete scams. Like they're wanting to spring that on you down the road is the kind of the way I get that. Now, this is a chart I have not shown in a long time, but I saw Riz put this out today and I wanted to show it to you. Only 1% of the global population has adopted digital assets. May not be accurate, but this is the flow chart. And this was going around a year or two ago, maybe 3. And it showed that this was how things would be adopted. Right now, we would be in that 2020 to 2025. Blockchain solutions for capital markets and trade finance emerge. R3, DAH, Fabric, ILP, Java becomes the interoperability standard for Hyperledger Foundation project. Then 2025 to 2023, blockchains and distributed ledger solutions mature and all asset exchange networks become interoperable with ILP. Folks, it's going to be an interesting few years to come. Now, I want to show you this. I really like this Vivek Ramsey guy. He really seems to be smart. What I've noticed with a lot of these politicians is that the Bitcoin people try to co-opt them, and I don't know if these politicians know anything about the other things out there or not. But this is kind of how it's worked. Just watch this.
My view of the promise of Bitcoin, though, is deeper than that. It is an opt-out from the broken financial architecture created by the U.S. Federal Reserve System. And I say this as somebody who wants to fight for, if I'm the U.S. president, I want to fight for the dollar to remain the reserve currency of the world. But, there's a funny thing that happens. There's 2 ways of doing that. One is if you're really insecure about your own value proposition, you try to smash out the competition. Well, the fact that the government officials are coming for alternative forms of currency the way they are, Bitcoin included, reflects an insecurity in their own value proposition. I look at it the other way. I think the existence of Bitcoin holds the dollar's feet to the fire to make sure that it can't be manipulated in a way that people don't just opt out and go the other direction. Because if they do have that opt out, that's what actually keeps us on our own toes. And so I love the idea, the alluring vision, and is why I was first drawn to it, certainly, of a total opt out.
I was too. I was first drawn to Bitcoin for the same reason, but since that time, I learned that there were 4 Satoshis that Homeland Security met with. I learned a lot of other things. Now, that's one of the things we're gonna go further, and we're gonna talk about in the group. Those 4 Satoshis. We're gonna tie in Sam Bankman-Fried. We're gonna tie in the islands, all the different stuff down there. We also have, and this will be in DAIXRP.com, the member group. We also, Stephen Nerioff has just released the Ethereum tapes, and I'm about 45 minutes into them. I'm going to play a clip from the secret Ethereum tapes, recordings of Vitalik Buterin. The reason I have to play them in the group is because that's why Stephen Nerioff popped up. Next thing I know, I've been kicked off of Twitter. Like they didn't want me to be able to show you the things that he was saying. And so I'm not going to play them out here. I'm going to play them in the group. We're going to cover those secret Ethereum tapes. We'll be covering those for the next few days. And then we're also going to talk about the commies and how they're in your traditional financial media. We're going to point them out, name them by name, because there's a lot of evil afoot. So go to DAIXRP.com. That's what we're going to be talking about here in a minute. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family. DAIXRP.com is where it is at. Okay,